Well, hey, we're live. And so we're going to talk about, I'm not just going to tell you about like the weekend. I'm going to tell you how, as a marketer of a independent author, how I use events like a 3-day book signing event to market my books, not just at that event, but across the globe. As I am a global author, my name is who am I? My name is Cody C. Engdahl. I am the author you know. I'm the author of 5 novels, soon to be 6. I also have 2 nonfiction works as well. You can find all those on Amazon, or if you catch me out in the wild, you might be able to get a signed copy. Also, I don't really advertise this because I'm being a direct bookseller is not really something that I'm trying to do. I am always very happy to sell a book, and I'll do almost anything to do so to make it easy for a reader to get a hold of one of my books, even if it's something outside of selling on Amazon. I guess what I'm saying is that some authors specialize in. Hi, baby. My cat's upstairs. You heard me feed her. She's very timid. Um, so she makes. I call her the ghost possum because she doesn't make a lot of appearances, and when she does, it's very fleeting. It's. I've taken over. Okay, I'm already getting off the tracks, but just so you know, I have Laura's mother's cat. Laura's mother went into memory care, and so I have adopted her cat, and the cat still hasn't figured out what she thinks of me, and that's fine. But she's warming up. She comes to me if I lay down in bed. She'll come up and come for petting, but that's the only time she's not afraid of me. Okay. Anyway, like I was saying, it was never my intention to get into direct sales. Now, I realize that as an independent author, there's no way of getting around that you have to do some direct sales. People want signed copies. And my initial idea was, well, if you want a signed copy, go buy it off of YouTube, or I'm sorry, Amazon, send it to me, and I never thought it out, to tell you the truth. It wasn't until the very first person asked for one, I'm like, well, shoot, how do I do that? Well, the answer is that and I knew that I could do this, but the answer is that you can buy author copies as an author. So if you publish with KDP and you want author copies, you order them as many as you want, and they sell them to you at price. I'm sorry, at cost. So in other words, you get it at a retail cost, so that I get them a lot cheaper for what they sell them for on Amazon. I get them for just what it costs Amazon to make it. I think the reason why Amazon does it is there's probably some kind of study in mathematics that show that the more I put physical product into the world, the more people get to know me as an author, and it's more likely that people will eventually come back to Amazon and to buy products off of Amazon. So I think it's a long-term investment that Amazon makes. So that being said, I started buying boxes of books. And my rule of thumb is I buy 20 at a time because I did the math, and I worked out with shipping what was the most cost effective as far as getting enough books to make the shipping be worth it without going overboard. And I find 20 at a time is a perfect number. And so usually the way I operate my direct sales business is I buy books 20 at a time. And once I get under 10 copies, then I order another book, another batch of 20. There are some variables to this, of course, or exceptions. One is, the only one I can think of right now is if I know I have back-to-back events that I'm probably going to blow through my inventory, that I'll preemptively buy another box of books beforehand, knowing that. I'll give you a perfect example. When I went to this to the reenactment this weekend or last weekend, I only had 11 copies of Blood for Blood at Nashville, which is one of my most popular books. And so normally I wouldn't order that box until I dip under 10. But knowing I was going to be at this thing for 3 days, I realized that I was going to need more than that within a day or two. I knew I probably wasn't going to sell 11, to be honest with you. Uh, to me, a good day selling books at an event is I sell at least 10. There have been days where I've sold close to 30 in one day. But I would say, first of all, I always say if I sell one book, it's worth it to me. Um, so so I wanted to make sure I wasn't shorthanded, and although I didn't sell more than the 11 copies I had, I'm so glad I bought a box because I ended up selling 4 copies of Blood for Blood at Nashville, and that meant that I would have had to buy a box anyway. So I bought it beforehand. I have it on hand. So now I'm down to what? See, I had 11, bought a box that's 31. I can't do math, but I think I have 27 copies of it. So I'm ready to go for the next event, which is, I'm not quite sure when that is, but we'll get into that. So that's one of the things. And like I said, what I wanted to talk about today is, well, I want to talk about the event a little bit, but also the whole idea behind this YouTube channel now. I mean, I had a lot of this YouTube channel has gone through a lot of iterations of what I'm using it for. But as far as the lives, I mean, right now I'm kind of documenting and sharing my journey as an independent author, an independent publisher, and an independent book marketer. And you have to be all three if you really want to make it in this game. And there's certainly a path to making it, and plenty of people do. I'm on that path myself. I think I'm doing pretty well. And I've learned also that you can always be doing better, right? But as long as you're moving forward, you're doing pretty well. And I am quite happy, to tell you the truth, of where I am right now. Um, Far beyond what I thought where I was going to be when I first started. And I'm not going to put like my father would say, he would go, Cody, you're always putting your happiness somewhere off into the future after you've done this and this and this. And he said, you need to learn how to be happy where you are as you go. And he was absolutely right. And so I'm enjoying the game. I'm enjoying getting my hands dirty like I did this weekend. I enjoy the struggle. So I'm sharing this journey with you. One more thing I want to say before we get much further. I have a problem. I have something growing right here, and I've been going to the doctors, and they're not quite sure what's going on. Had a CAT scan, still not sure. Went to the dentist. She's got different ideas what it might be. I have an MRI next week. We have to do an MRI before they can cut me open and look to see and get a biopsy of what it may be. I'm not telling you that because I'm looking for sympathy. I want you to know that because it causes me to have problems with my mouth that makes it difficult for me to speak well and to pronunciate very well. My tongue, I mean, I don't pronunciate. I don't pronounce very well anyway, but my tongue is swollen, so it's hard for me to speak without chewing up and my tongue, and I slur a lot. So that's what's going on, in case you're wondering where my dulcet tones have gone to. So when you have an event and you're an author and you're going to go to some kind of show, you're going to have a table somewhere, or you're going to be signing books, you have to think about the big picture, right? And I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that you want to go there and you want to sell books and hopefully get as many new readers as possible. And yeah, but there's also a lot you can make out of that before and afterwards. And a big part of it is what we call social proof. And social proof is a marketing term that comes way before social media ever came about. Social proof is a good example of social proof would be like testimonies. Basically, social proof is showing potential customers that other people like them have bought your product and they like it. And that's why the classic testimonial is marketing and advertising gold. What's by the way, what's the difference between marketing and advertising? Because a lot of times those words are used interchangeably, and I'm guilty of that myself. And I have worked in marketing and advertising. Marketing is more like the overall plan of presenting your product to the positioning your product um, uh, uh, out to the public. It includes, like for books, it includes book covers, the blurb on the back, um, uh, the way you write, how you're positioning your product for the market so that it can be. It also is non-creative things, just like just deciding how much inventory to buy, trying to get your books into stores. All these different things are marketing. Advertising is like direct ads for sales, uh, like running ads, for example, on Amazon and Meta, like I do. If you have a better, it, it's one of those things like someone once said about pornography. I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I see it. So if you have a better idea of what's the difference in advertising as opposed to marketing, I would say advertising is a subset of marketing. Does that make sense? But I use those quite um, the same. I mean, one of the fastest of marketing is for example pricing. Deciding how much your product is going to be is marketing. See what I'm saying? Going out and telling people how much your product is, that's advertising. See the difference there? Okay, enough of that. Uh, so I do a lot of both. Okay, I'm just going to use marketing as a blanket term here. So social proof is one. uh, I have an event that I'm going to be where I'm going to be, and I start letting people know, and I make organic posts. I on Twitter and Facebook and all the different places you can do that. I also have an email list, which, by the way, please get on my email list. If you go down to the description below, there's a link to it. uh, and just getting the word out. There's two things I'm doing there. One is I'm advertising the event. I'm literally trying to get people to come out to the event to come see me to buy a book. And I not only that, it's twofold. I want people to come see me and buy a book, direct sales, right? Which I succeeded in. I'll tell you a story about it. I don't know if he saw it or not, but I'll tell you in a minute. But also, it's social proof. You may, there are plenty of people out there that I know are never going to make it to that show. Even if they're local, they're probably not going to come to the show. But it's social proof because what it's saying is, look at me. I'm a legitimate author. I get invited to events, legitimate events in which people are going to be buying my book, and that gets people thinking. And part of advertising is frequency. Like, everybody knows who Coca-Cola is, right? But Coca-Cola still buys commercials. Why? Because they don't want you to forget that they're still around. So the more you see the commercials, the more it gets into your subconscious, like, hey, they're out there. McDonald's is the same way. Ford Motor Company. Um, it's the same thing with being an author. You want to keep reminding, you want to keep knocking on the door. Hey, I'm still out. Remember me? And eventually people say, I've been seeing Cody around a while. I think I'm going to buy one of his books. I've had people that I've known for years come out of the blue and say, hey, I want to buy your book. And okay, and we work out a way. Like I said about direct sales, I think I started this and then got sidetracked like I do, and I'm working on that. I promise you. Is that mostly my efforts are to get drive sales to Amazon, because Amazon I sell all over the world. I've sold recently. I had a Facebook friend in Sweden buy my book in Sweden. It's the first book ever sold in Sweden. There are months where I do better in the UK than I do in the US. I've sold books in Japan. Um, I've sold books in, I think, every continent. I've sold books in Australia. I've sold them in South America. Sold them in Asia. Sold them in Europe. I sold any books in Africa? I feel like I have in Northern Africa, and certainly in the Middle East. But anyway, I digress. Um, but I am willing. I do sell direct copies in two ways. One is out of the trunk of my car, whether I go to one of these events and I set up and people buy books, uh, or if somebody is in Middle Tennessee and say, "Can I meet you somewhere and buy a book from you?" I do that. I also do it by mail. The only thing I do is I just ask people to pay for shipping. I haven't. I shipped one book to the UK. That was Ben King had what was it? A fundraising auction. So I donated a book to his auction, and it cost me. And so I was going to give the book away for free, and I said I'd pay for the shipping. It cost me $30 to send that book. It was worth it because Ben's a big deal, but you know, $30 to give away a book was quite a bit of money. But for the most part, I keep them around for events like this. Well, first we'll talk about the pre-event. So like I said, I put out a lot of posts, let people know I was going to it. I was going to be there. Put it out put an email out to everybody that's on my list, and then talked about social media, and then went to it. Now, what this event was, this was the Morgan Returns, which I was confused because there was another event that happened the week before called Morgan on the Rim. And the guy who used to run that as late as last year is now running Morgan Returns. What's all this deal about Morgan? Morgan Hunt was a Confederate cavalry leader, and there was a incident at Ridgetop that the original event is based off of. But then he came back and attacked again. So there was a second weekend that they do in Springfield, and that's the one that I got invited to. So Gary invited me to it. Said, "Hey, we'll comp you a table. We just want you to come out in your uniform and play the fiddle and sell your books." I said, "Yes." And so when you do that, you want to make the most of it. I want to show you something. Hang on 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I'm just going off camera for a second. I say to myself, it's not just sell a bunch of books, which is important, right? I won't bury the lead any more than I already have 18 minutes into this. I sold 24 books, but the other thing I did was it's not just selling books on that day. It's also gaining readers for life, right? And part of it is building my email list. So I had all my books out, right, that people can look at and they can ask me questions with the pricing. And I have deals. If you buy more than one book, you're going to get a deal. But I have a book coming, and I wanted to get a placard, like one of those foam core poster boards of the book coming out, but it was so expensive to do. So I just asked Laura at work to do a print copy, a color copy of this. And so this is the book that's coming. It's coming in next year. So I had her print this up. I only put it on this plastic today. I just had it, exposed on the paper on this clipboard. So I had that out there. And then what I did is I'm trying to build my email list. So once again, if you're watching this, please join my email list. I promise I won't spam you. But I had this out on my table. And I also had, wait for it. I'm going to cover this up because I don't want to give too much information away. But I had people sign up for my email list. So you had these two things. I'm running out of hands. These two things together, so that you can see that this is coming soon, and then here's the sign up here. I got Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. And by the way, yeah, I'm not doing big numbers. Sold 24 books, got 9 signups for the email list. Man, right now, every single one of them is a victory to me. So that was great. Another thing that I do while I'm there is because I'm really bad with keeping up with things because you're taking money, sometimes swiping cards, you're talking to people, you're signing books. So I make sure I have a little system here. It's hash marks, but I have the books and the different price points, and then I can make hash marks. And then later on, when I come home, I pull up my spreadsheets and then I add in everything I sold, how much I sold it for, how much I paid for the unit, so I can see what my net versus gross is. And that's basically how I do the bookkeeping for that. And then at the end of the year, I can take all that and report it to the IRS. And you're damn certain I do that because you don't want to wait. Even if you're not making a whole lot of money doing it, you want to start right away. Like I started back in 20, was it? I think I started doing events in 2019, and that first year wasn't that big of a year, but I reported everything because it's gonna grow. So that when I am making millions of dollars, I say, well, where was your tax reporting in these early years? If you're gonna be serious about it, then be serious and file your taxes. Because if you're an independent author, if you're an independent author, you're also an independent publisher and an independent marketer. You are an independent business. Even if you're a business of one, you still are. You have to take yourself serious. First of all, if you don't take yourself serious, no one else will. So that's one part of it. But also, if you're looking to grow, you better start building good habits right away. Before they catch up with you. So this was an inaugural thing. Apparently, what happened was, I'm not quite sure, but Gary Lima had been the coordinator for Morgan on the Rim, which is in Ridgetop, Tennessee. That has changed hands to someone else, and now Gary is doing this other thing. That's what I got invited to. I thought they merely moved, and I didn't realize that until I got out there and started talking to people and realizing now the people that run Morgan on the Rim. Well, for years they would Gary would comp me a table there, but then the city took it over, and the city said, "Well, you have to pay for your table. We consider you a vendor. All vendors pay for their tables." And I said, "Okay, well, thank you, but no, thank you." And I was very gracious about it. I was like, "I appreciate the offer and all that, but I have a rule, and you might be different, and I understand if you are, because some people are more of a direct sales business. I don't pay for tables. It's a flat rule for me. I don't pay for tables. If I have to pay for a table, then I'd rather take that money and spend it on advertising on Meta and Amazon." And the reason being is, part of marketing is I try to keep the prices of my books down because I'm looking to sell volume and build a readership, right? So my profit margin isn't that great. I would have to sell a lot of books to even break even. Even break even. What a great writer I am. To pay, some of these people want $80 to $150 for a table. It's not worth it to me. Now I might break even, but even then, like for example, I might take in several $100s, but a lot of that is money I already spent up front paying for the products, right? So if I pay $80, $150 for a table, and I gross $300 in sales, well, I'm once I figure out my net, I'm barely making any more money than if I had just stayed home. And it's almost a better deal to just say, hey, let's just take that money and see if we can't push sales on Facebook or Amazon. So that's basically my rule of that is now you may be different, and I'm not telling you to not pay for tables if you think you can do the volume and you see it as a good way of building your readership. But my feeling is this: I'm a master of the soft sell because I'm not desperate to get people to buy my books. In fact, a lot of times I give them out. I say, hey, you know, if you decide now's not a good time, and 2 weeks from now you're like, I wish I would have bought one of his books. You can buy my books on Amazon. And once they realize that I am going to let them walk away without buying a book, they change their mind. They buy a book. I find that happens all the time. If I put $150 down on a table, you're damn straight. I'm going to be working every single person who walks by and trying to push a book. And I don't want to sell that way. I want to enjoy myself, and also like I'll talk about it a little later. But because I'm wearing a Yankee uniform, and there's not enough Yankees at these reenactments, I often get recruited to do the battle, at the reenactment. Well, that pulls me away from my table. So when I'm out there running around with a musket, and usually like an hour before we have to get in place and then sit around and wait and then do the thing. That's so I'm several hours away from my table. Man, that's sales that I'm missing. I mean, most people are watching the thing anyway, but you see what I'm saying? So my rule is I'm happy to come and play my fiddle, and that's why a lot of times I do get tables comped to me because I add to the event by playing the fiddle and wearing the uniform. But if I have to pay for it, nah, I'd rather buy ads on Amazon instead. So there's that. So let's get into this. So Gary was kind of feeling his way. I think first of all the event was great. I think that we had it's his first year. The reenactors that came out for it were wonderful. We got good crowds both days. Um, could have been better, sure, but it's a learning experience. Let me show you first. Let's see if I have this open. I want to show this to you first. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna do stop sharing screen. And I'm gonna do present arms. I'm gonna share screen. I'm gonna do a window. Sorry, talking out loud. Hopefully, I don't have any embarrassing photos to show you. Okay, so now Gary is an event coordinator, or you know, is that the proper word? I mean, bigger than that. But he's the mastermind behind the whole thing. And sometimes people who put on events are not good marketing people. What I'm saying is that the skills they overlap, but they're not necessarily the same skill set. So Gary's idea was at this park, and I can't remember the name of the park, but it's a big park. And basically, you drive in and you go through this windy road past picnic areas and playgrounds and lakes, and then you get to like a split where it goes into a one-way loop. And at that split, there's a VFW post there. And so if you go past that, you go around the woods, and then you make a right and you go up further, and that's where everything was. The encampment, the battlefield was. Okay, I got something. Well, thank you. Lloyd says that's a good-looking table. Thank you very much. So I think the original plan was Gary was like, they were having the ticket sales at that where it splits because that's your point of entry, and they had registration and ticket sales inside the VFW. So you go in there. If you're a reenactor, you register. If you're if you're a what do you call it? A viewer, an audience member, a visitor, you pay for your ticket, and then you drive up to where everything is, right? Well, he was going to have me inside this building, and the other author, she ended up not being able to come. She had some family issues to deal with. Hang on, how do I stop this thing? Because it's in my way. Get out of my way. So I went there Friday, and I didn't know what to expect. I heard that maybe we'd have some previews with like kids, but it was mostly a setup day. So I was in the VFW, and yes, Lloyd, you're right. It was a pretty handsome. See, that's my setup right there. See, you can see sign up for my email list. Don't worry about those emails. Those I put on there to show people that that's where you sign up. It's kind of like with the tip jar. I put a couple of dollars in my own tip jar, so people see that there's dollars in there and they throw money in there, right? But that's just to give you a look of what it looked like. I have my little plastic figurines. I bring them there and set it up. It's just fun. That's Gary right there. That's me and Gary. And Gary never looks that serious. He's just very serious looking in that picture. Well, here's the problem. All right. It was a beautiful table, but I realized very early on that I'm away from everything. I'm missing all the action because a lot of times I'm not selling books to the visitors. I'm selling books to the reenactors, and I'm excluded from them. You have to take a car. You can walk, but it's a long walk. You need a car to get from where registration is and where the actual event is. So I went in there. I set up. A good friend of mine, Robert Spivel, came out. He and his lady friend, Nicole Rupright, have been buying my books since the beginning, just like my good friend Elmore Lloyd Jr., who is, I'm sorry, Lloyd Elmore Jr. God, I did it again. Because I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Leonard. Okay, Elmore. Lloyd Elmore Jr. is also an author. You should check out his books on Amazon. So Robert came up because he had been for almost a week before. Are you going to be able to sing? Because we need to get your latest book because they've read all my books so far. I said, yeah, I'll be there. So Robert came up, bought the Prussian Prince, and then we ended up talking for about an hour because we're friends. And I didn't get a picture with him, which I wish I would have. And one, because I like him and I like having pictures with my friends, but also every time I sell a book, I take a picture and I post it on social media because it's social proof. So I'm showing everybody out there, I'm on my social media followings that look, here are people buying books from me. And then you might think, hey, look how many books, look at all these happy people that sign. But I should buy one of his books too. I also use it for bookkeeping because sometimes I get confused when I have a bunch of people at one time. They're all handing money, talking to me. I'm signing books, handing out books, and I don't keep up with the bookkeeping. I can go back and I look through the photos, and I literally have everybody hold the books up so I can actually see what I sold them. That helps out a lot. And fortunately, this time, I'm getting pretty good at it. So anyway, after Robert left, I was like bored. I'm like, I'm not going to sell anything sitting here. So I drove down to where or drove up to where the event was actually going to be. Talked to Gary. I said, hey, look, man, I'm very grateful for everything, but I think it might be better, not just for me, but for the people, our visitors as well, to bring me here, especially if it's not going to rain. If it was, that's another thing too. If it's raining, well, you I want to be inside, and I probably would have moved back if it started raining. So anyway, Lloyd, this is what the table looked like on the next day. So the first day I didn't miss much because oh yeah, Lloyd says no problem. See Angel Cody. I know Elmer Lloyd. The problem is that you have two first names every time. Like I have a friend who runs a podcast. It's Paul Michael, and I get so screwed up because you got three first names. So feel free to call me C Angel Cody. Yeah, any name will work. So I didn't really miss anything on Friday. It was mostly just set up. And so on Saturday, I got there early, and this is my table. That's how I set it up, and it was. I went home feeling good. I'm glad and actually Gary said to me, he goes, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. So I'm gonna have you yeah, be down and be amongst us. The other part of it is that I am I'm in uniform. And he's like, you're another uniform out there. Because they want to have, especially Yankees, because I live in the South and most people are rooting for the home team. So you got most of the guys dressed in their rebel stuff and there's not enough Yankees. So added me to the mix. And not only that, not just walking around the encampment, but when it comes time to do the battle, they usually ask me, "Would you come out?" And yeah, absolutely. And on Saturday they even gave me a gun and cartridges I get to fire off. It's a blast. I love doing that. I get it, a blast. Uh, on Sunday I was the flag bearer, which that was fun too. So anyway, let's see. Yeah, that's the next day. I'm on Friday. I pulled up. That's my pickle hub. And you can see the guys off in the background there. They're getting ready. And then this is the quartermasters area. And then sure enough, man, people started showing up and I started selling books. This guy, very interesting. He bought. He's never read any of my books. He bought book 1 and book 5 because I write each book as if you haven't, even though they're all connected. I write each one assuming the reader hasn't read the previous ones or they've forgotten. So I put just enough information from the other books so that you can get through the book that you bought. So he was my first sale on Saturday. Robert bought one book on Friday and I never got a picture. This guy is oh my god, this guy is so funny. His name is Ethan. He had a nom de guerre because I think he was role playing as someone, but his real name is Ethan Chung. It's spelled Chung, but it's the Korean pronunciation and not the Chinese one. This guy is Joe Cool. He has this beautiful pickup truck. He's actually a Confederate, but he prefers to play a Confederate, but because there wasn't enough Yankees on Saturday, he played the part of Confederate, and he recruited me. This is a Sharps rifle. I ended up having this one for the reenactment. This is an Enfield, which is a little easier. The Sharps is a breech loading, meaning it loads down here, where the Enfield is muzzle loading. You go through the top. But that's us. A woman came out and wanted a picture with us, and then I wanted one together. This guy was great. He got me once he got me recruited into his squad there. He got me this belt here, and you can't see it, but there's ammo pouches and all that. And he got me rounds, everything I needed. I found out though. Okay, funny story though, is that he's like, yeah, let me see if I can find you some stuff. He comes back, gives me all the stuff. So when it's done, I try to find him because I want to give the rifle back. And some guy, I have no idea, he's like, hey, I've been looking for that. He took somebody's rifle and gave it to me. Didn't tell the guy wasn't happy about that. And more on that later. Um, let's see here. Yeah, and so then okay, there's that. So then this guy came out. He bought just uh, once again some Blood for Blood is probably my most popular book. I think it's because it's got Nathan Bedford Forrest on it, and it's twice as long as Rampage too, and it's one of my best. I mean, all my books are great, but one of my probably best. This woman here is the first one. The first of 3 to buy the whole set. She bought all 5 books. I can't remember what it would be if I charged you full price. I know the prices. I can't do the math that fast, but it's 10, 12, 17, 14, and 12. But if you buy all 5 at once, it's $55. Now she bought it for her grandson, who I don't know if I have a picture, but he was one of the reenactors there. Nice kid. This old guy. Okay, so I have used this photo. This was drives me crazy too. I always ask people to take photos, and they get so far away, and it's like, no, I don't need all this, man. I just want us. So I always end up cropping it, but I've been using this photograph for a lot of my post-action marketing because it's a sweet picture, but the other thing is the story, because I'm getting to the point now where I go to these events and people have already know who I am. They've heard of me. They may have read some of my books. They may have bought some of my books on Amazon. This man here, I bought my first 3 novels on Amazon on Kindle, came out on Saturday and bought those 2 books for me in person, which I signed for him. And so that I think that's one of the first instances that I know of where I had a reader who had bought my books on Kindle off of Amazon, then come out to an event and buy a physical copy to have me sign it. So that meant the world to me. And so that is one of my that's uh probably one of my favorite pictures of the whole thing because what a feeling that is. I also had several people come out there and say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of you," or "Oh, I my friend read that," or some of you may even read some of them. So it's neat. You're out there long enough, you're going to bump into people who didn't know you were going to be there who have read your stuff. So that was great. Um, Here's one of the reenactors, nice kid. He came up to me the next day. He bought this on Saturday. And he was one of the reenactors that was staying. The hardcore guys, they camp out. He came back. He came up to me the next morning and he said, "I started reading your book, and it's a really good book." And I said, "How far did you get?" "I just got through like the very beginning, but I'm already in." I said, "Awesome." I go, "I promise you, it gets better. This book gets better, and the books after it get better and better and better. So if you're liking it so far, you're gonna be happy." He is one of the people on my list, on my email list. Um, so look at that, young guy loves it. I don't know. I hope he follows all the way into the Mexican War and the Prussian Wars. He might just be like, "I'm only into the Civil War," but I have a good feeling that I'm probably going to have him at least for the trilogy. So that'd be great. Um, this is Peter. Peter is a PhD candidate, or it might be a DED. He's getting his doctorates in upper education. He was also the quartermaster and one of the organizers of the reenactment stuff. He made food for everybody. He made biscuits and gravy every morning. He made chili at night. A lot of the thing, the coat. I wear a captain's coat, and apparently I can't just give myself rank. So they want me to be an officer out there. So I had to wear I think a sergeant's quartermaster sergeant's jacket. Like anybody watching knew the difference. I like my jacket because it's a little wide in the shoulders, which is a little embarrassing because I'm typically pretty broad. But I feel like my jacket fits me better. Where this jacket was kind of big for me. Let's like I was wearing my dad's clothes or something like that. But Peter's a great guy. Uh, Peter's also a fiddle player. He had it, and he said he was gonna bring it up, but he was so busy with the event that he wasn't able to play with me. But he asked me, he's going to be doing a dissertation, and he wants to publish it afterwards. And so he asked me if I would help him. I said, absolutely. Just let me know, and we'll get you published. Because he's already written it, and a lot of people do that. They write their dissertation, and then it becomes a book. So I'm going to help him with that. This is Sunday morning. So I like making fun of myself, um, because in this field, this is Tennessee, Civil War. All these guys, half those trucks have truck nuts. I'm just kidding. And then here I am with my Prius. So I'm like private Prius, reporting for duty, sir. So I just think it's funny to see my Prius parked along. There were some other little cars like mine there too. So I wasn't the only one, but I thought that was a funny joke. So Sunday was Sunday. I'll tell you this. I've done enough events now, whether it's a Civil War show or a reenactment or whatever. But usually, if it's a weekend affair, it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm becoming very aware of the pattern. And the pattern is that Friday, the biggest day is Saturday. Saturday is the main event. So if you're not doing well on Saturday, good luck. Friday is load in. So usually on Friday, you're coming up for the first time. You're getting the lay of the land. You're setting up your table, and sometimes there's a preview where there are some people that come early to the show. A lot of it is like especially if it's a show, not a reenactment, other vendors are kind of checking out each other's tables. Sometimes a lot of vendor to vendor deals are made during that time. And usually on a Friday, I'll sell books. But like I said, it's the people that are coming for the preview. It's other vendors. Saturday is the big day. Saturday is where you make the most money. It's where the general public comes in mass. Um, and then Sunday is not as big of a day. And usually Sunday, by 2 in the afternoon, and I like to keep my table as everybody's packing up. I keep my table open as long as possible. Because sometimes someone comes by, and I did. People were packing up their tents and everything. I had one of the guys that's one of the coordinators for the thing come by because I was still sitting out there playing my fiddle. He came by and bought a book. So this guy right here, he's from Ohio, and we talked the day before, and he says, "I'm gonna come by." I would, when there wasn't a lot of public, and I think it was before the battle, or maybe afterwards. I did a walkabout talking to everybody. And I sat down with him and his wife and their friend at his camp, and he was asking me questions. And he says, "Well," he goes, "I want to buy one of your books before the weekend's over, and hopefully, if I talk to my wife, I'll buy all 5." Well, apparently, the talk went really well because when I came the next day, this is before the battle on Sunday. He bought all 5 books, which is great. So he's the second all 5 books. So like I said, Sunday was a slower day as far as foot traffic, but I almost did as well. And just to give you the numbers, I sold 1 book on Friday, 12 on Saturday, but 11 on Sunday. And part of it is because I did more quantity per person, if that's the right way to express that. So 5 books going to Ohio. Very excited about that. I like seeing my books go to other places because he might lend those books. Someone might see it on his bookshelf and be interested in it. Go on Amazon, buy their own, and hopefully, and he signed up for my email list. So hopefully, he's going to come back around and order the French Fiasco when it comes out. So that's great. The other 5 book person is this lady. She is very eccentric. She is a Seventh-day Adventist. Or I can't remember how to say it. And man, she's gonna let you know about it. But she was really sweet. She was not thrown off by my own lack of faith, and sorry for anybody who doesn't like that about me. And I want you to know that whatever you are, man, if you're a 7-day Adventist, Catholic, Buddhist, Wiccan, Muslim, I love you, man. Atheist, I love you. Everybody out there, man. I'm here for your rights to worship and believe in what you do. So anyway, but she's also fluent in Spanish, and I made the mistake of letting her know that I at times have been I would say conversational in Spanish. So oh my God, she insisted that we speak Spanish, so we had to do the whole sale in Spanish, the whole debate about the existence of God in Spanish. Everything in Spanish, but it was fine. She's a sweetheart. She bought all 5 of my books. She signed up for the list. That is her husband over there. Beautiful people. I did have to kind of like chew my leg off to get away from her, mostly because I had to get back to my table. But by the way, she's in the thumbnail. If you notice, I got rid of the background, but my hand, so she has this disembodied. So maybe that's the hand of God, and maybe she's right. And I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying this is, where I should not get into politics or religion. For God's sakes, please do not cancel me. So then this is one of the guys from Morgan on the Rim. and he was helping out here as well. And he came at the last minute as I was tearing down and got Rampage on the River. And he assured me, like, come to so next year, because I told the other guy about Morgan on the Rim. I said, yeah, I used to do it, but the city came in. They maybe they want to charge me for a table. And last year, what happened was I was going to be charged a table. I said, thank you, but no thanks. Gary pulled some strings and came back and said, hey, we're getting you in anyway, so don't worry about it. Well, I told the new guy, and he said, oh, no. We want you there. You're not going to pay for a damn table. Count on it. We're going to have you there. We want you there with your fiddle and your uniform. So I will be next year doing both um, events back to back. So, like I said earlier, my usual scheme is that I buy books in a box of 20. When I get under 10, I buy another box. So I usually have anywhere between 10 and 30 books, but I'll make sure that I have enough. I can I try to have at least 10 books of each title, 10 copies of each title per day I'm going to be there. That's way more. That's very ambitious. But just in case, I'd rather have too much stock than run out and miss sales. So that's how. And then there's my ghost possum right there. So she is. In fact, you can see her now. You can see how dingy my bedroom is. God, that's embarrassing looking. But as soon as the camera comes on, she's not quite sure. Please here to kiss you. Yeah, that's me slurring my speech, not because I'm drunk, but because of my tongue. Yeah, she's had enough. Okay. Is there another picture? That's it. All right. So, all right. So that was the weekend. But the work isn't over there. I will say this. I was exhausted when I got finished. I was so tired that when I got home and I got like my fiddle out and a couple sensitive things out of the car, I said I'm gonna take a half-hour break. And I just lay in bed and play on the computer for about a half hour, and I got up and then I had finished unloading the car, taking the trash out, made dinner, got in bed, and updated all my spreadsheets and added all the names to my the new email to my email list. And I'll just tell you, you get inside information because I don't share a lot of numbers with people, but I got 9 new signups, so I'm at 66 people on my email list. I have 172 following me on Amazon, and so I mean, at some point I want to have thousands. The email service is free until you get 1,000, and I figured by the time I get 1,000, it's gonna be worth it, and then I'll have to pay for it, which is fine with me. So what do I do with all that experience? So that because it's not over when you come home and you update your books and things like that. There's still more marketing to do. Well, first of all, I have these new email people, so I put them on that list. And so this is part of it. It's the after action report. That is a military term that usually when there is a battle or some kind of action that happens, the commanding officer will write an after action report in which he'll share what happened and and what went well and what. And I mean, I'm playing along. I'm being there we go. So today, the first thing I wanted to do was to create an after action report in email form. So I had the new emails loaded and I double checked them this morning because I knew I was tired before I send it. So I wrote out an email sharing, and once again, social proof. I'm showing people, hey, remember that thing I told you I was going to do? Well, look, I did it, and here is the result. Here are some pictures. Look at all the happy people smiling, so that people see that and they say, well, hey, I had to go to the next one that he does. Or they say, this guy's legit. I think I'm going to buy his book. It does look interesting. So I wrote my after action report and then sent that as an email. But it didn't end there because the great thing about social media these days is that the audience is fragmented, but you can get to them everywhere. It used to be the only way you could reach people were television, radio, billboards, and print, and you had to have a lot of money to do it. Now with social media, you can find audiences everywhere, but you have to. It's fragmented. So I have some people that only follow my blog. I have only 66 people on my email list. I have 172 that follow me on Amazon. I have about 3,500 people on Facebook, about 1,000 people on Twitter. You see what I'm saying? So you got to be everywhere. So, and you can reuse a lot of things in multiple places. So I wrote the email, sent it out. Some of you may have got, I know Lloyd, you're on my list, so you probably got the email. And then I'm like, well, I'll make a blog post of that. And this is the interesting thing. I realized I used to write book reviews on Goodreads and then share the Goodreads version of it. But I was like, why am I doing that? I'm just sending people to Goodreads. I want to send them to me. So I still do my book reviews on Goodreads, but I also do a blog post of it, and then I share the blog post, because the blog post I can have hyperlinks to my own work, and I can have a preview as well. So why not, right? So I spent all morning crafting this email with all the photos and all that. Why not turn that into a blog post for the people who aren't on my list? And by the way, in that blog post, I put a link so that you can join my email list. So all these things are interconnected, right? All interconnected. So I put that together. And once I finish the blog post, and of course, everybody who follows my blog can see it, I also share now the blog post, which is a version of what I did in the email. I share that on all my social media, or the social media where it's easy to share. So, for example, here we go. And once again, there's that photo. See what I mean? Like, cropped it. Isn't that a much better photo than like the huge wide one where like ants in the center of it? But you can see us smiling and having a good time. It's a human moment, right? So this is the blog post version of the email that I sent everybody, right? So this is getting the most of before, the during, and after what I do at an event. So here we go. So after action report, Morgan returns Civil War reenactment. The inaugural Morgan Returns was a success, and there's the picture. There's some that even Laura like texted me and said that is a great picture. I agree. That and that's a gentleman who has three of my books. First three books on Kindle came out and bought the next two in person, had them signed. And I would say that here. This man gave me all the affirmation I need. He already had my first three books on Kindle. I assume he got them from Amazon. He came out and got print copies of my latest two in person. I've never been happier or prouder to sign a book. And then here's a picture of Gary Lima and me. Morgan Returns had its inaugural American Civil War reenactment last weekend, November 1st to 3rd, 2024. Gary Lima, the coordinator, invited me to come play my fiddle and sign books. By the way, can you guess which car is mine? So here's that little. I'll give you a hint. I'm the starving artist. I'll have the answer at the end. So that's one of those things. I don't know if it's really working, but you want to give people reasons to read through the whole thing. So maybe that will like, I wonder which one's his. I'll read through the end. So here's the report. I sold 24 books, got 9 new signups for the email list. If you're one of them, thank you and welcome to Angdal House. Here are some pictures I took with my new readers, 3 of which bought the whole series. Check it out. And she's one of them. And by the way, a couple things about marketing and community building and dealing with people in general. Don't say you all. And it has nothing to do with, don't be Southern or anything like that, y'all. Don't talk to people like they're a collective. Talk to people like you're talking to one. Because like right now, I am this is being broadcast across YouTube. I have people watching now. I'll have people watching it later. I'm not talking to the audience. I am talking to you specifically. And when you write, you should write the same way. No one wants to be one of the herd. They want to be a person that you're talking to. So I always write and speak to you individually. When people read, yeah, tens of thousands of people may read your books, but when they're reading, they're by themselves reading it. So you're writing your to each individual person. Does that make any sense? Don't make it collective. And I see so many people do that. You all, you guys, however you want to say it. No, it's you individual right now listening to me. That's who I'm talking to. And that's who you should be talking to as well, and who you're writing to. So I talked about people buying all five, and so I follow that up with I really stacked the order of these so that you see it right away. So this woman right here. By the way, I like about this because going back to marketing and social proof, I I always say this, okay, there is a tendency, especially with films, where like they want to have wide appeal because they need a lot of people to go to it, and they end up pleasing nobody. Don't try to please everybody. Try to pick like your ideal reader, right to that ideal person. And regardless of who that person is, you will get other people. I believe that every one of us has an ornery 12-year-old boy in them. And I use them because I would say that so does this woman. I know Laura does. Oh, wait a minute. Am I not? Oh, I'm not sharing that. I'm so sorry. Dang it. I'm still learning how to do this. Okay, when I clicked on it, it didn't go to it. So I'm like reading something that you're not seeing. So let me see if I can. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. This woman here. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. So I was reading through this. This is what the email looks like, and there's the guy, there's Gary Lima, there's the joke about the car, and now I'm showing all the people about all five. So I believe that this woman also is a 12-year-old boy in her, just as I have a 9-year-old girl in me sometimes, and things that weren't meant for me are still exciting to me. This guy definitely has a 12-year-old boy. In fact, this picture right here are two 12-year-old boys in their old man forms. He's quite a bit younger than me, but he's no 12-year-old boy. Here are three 12-year-old boys. Laura, who is very feminine, very proper, can have the most honorious, irreverent humor like a 12-year-old boy. So what I'm saying is that even though this is what I was talking about marketing, right? Even though I'm writing to that 12-year-old boy that was reading adult books. I don't mean adult, but like sexual. I just meant like adult level novels, that was hungry for war and adventure and military stuff. That's who I write to. But do you know who I get? I get women like her. I get women. I get men. I get women, although she got it for a grandkid. But you see what I'm saying? You'll find the audience will find you if you're clear. Find that focal point, right to that focal point. To me, it's the adolescent who's mature enough to be able to read fiction meant for adults. Because my books aren't YA; they are adult books. But right to the inner child. For me, that's why I write to the inner child, and mostly a male inner child. Everybody's got one, including women. Um, and I get people of all types. I get men, women. I get young. I get older. I get black, white, Asian. I get gay. I get straight. I get everybody comes along for the ride. And I truly believe in that. Be focused on who you're writing it to, and you will get everybody else in the perimeter. And if you try to write for everybody, you're going to please nobody. Does that make any sense? All right, I'll stop lecturing on that. Okay, so we got the 3 5s, and then here's the dude, and we went through all these already. But I show all, this is all the social proof. Look at all these people buying the book. Okay, and then I came back to Ethan. I also got recruited into the battle reenactment. Here in the South, there are never enough Yankees to shoot. So since I was in uniform, I made the perfect target. And then I explained this a little more. Ethan was kind enough to find me a gun and some cartridges to fire for the battle. He normally dresses in Confederate gray, but on this day he took one for the team and wears Yankee blue. And that's Ethan right there. And then remember when you guys probably missed it because I wasn't sharing this screen, but I made this joke. Can you guess what car is mine? I'll tell you in the end. Well, there it is. We're at the end. And here's a picture of me on my Picklehub private Prius, and I will be back next year. We'll also be at Morgan on the Rim at Ridge Shop the weekend before. Here's some more upcoming events where I'll be. Not all of them are book signings, but I always have plenty in my trunk. If you want to come out and get one, that is true. And so I give a list of all the things, and this is something new that I started with my email. I'm putting at the bottom all my emails. Here are the things. So it may not be the reason why I'm writing you the email, but they say when it comes to advertising that you want, like, sometimes they say it takes on average 7 touch points before a sale. They need to see your ad or to be reminded of you 7 times before they pull the trigger. So if someone looks at this now, it's getting in their mind. And also there might be people like, oh, okay, November 30th, I'm going to go to that. I don't put too much information. If someone wants to know, they can ask me, but I'll put more out when we get close to that. And then I put this up. I had this made for, or I made it for the show, but I'm getting all sorts of use about it. And then I do an update on the writing. And here we go. We're planning on having the French Fiasco out early next year. I'll let you know when the pre-order for the digital version begins. It'll be 99 cents during that period, and then $4.99 once it comes out. That's kind of my pattern. I want to get pre-orders because it starts driving the algorithm. So so in return, and I don't discount the book for a whole year or until the next book comes out. So it'll be $4.99 all the way until the next book comes out. I did that with Prussian Prince. It's probably what has hurt it quite a bit because I haven't run any specials on it. As soon as the pre-order for the French Fiasco comes out, I'll run a 99-cent thing on the Prussian Prince to try to drive up sales and try to drive up some anticipation for the book. So when the French Fiasco goes on pre-order, you'll be able to pick up that for 99 cents and the Prussian Prince for 99 cents. And that little tip is what you get for hanging with me so long on my live video here or watching through it on the replay. So after that, I plan on writing a novella that will be free and exclusive to there's a typo right there. I'll fix that. To members of my email list. Click the link to join. That's because I had to change it from the email that said that would be free exclusive to you, dear member of my email list. And so notice, like I said, I didn't say it's going to be free and exclusive to y'all on my email list because I'm not talking to the collective. I'm talking to the individual. Always talk to the individual. Don't talk to. Nobody wants to be grouped in. Everybody's a real person, a real individual. Talk to that person, not y'all. Okay. Click the link to join. I hope okay. I can't tell the difference between black and red sometimes because I'm colorblind. So that should be out next year as well. The working title is The Underground Railroad Ball. It takes place the night before Rampage on the River. And once again, there's a hyperlink to that book if you want to buy it. Begins and will feature Deputy Chester E. Newman. You may recall him from the first 3 books. There's some concept art. Yes, I had AI do this. By the way, AI doesn't do any writing for me. AI doesn't do any writing for me. It also doesn't fuck my girlfriend or play video games for me because why would I be writing? Why would I write because I love it? Why would I have AI do it for me? That's what I'm saying. But I'm not an artist, so I was very happy to hand over the reins. And that's pretty close to the way I imagined Chester E. Newman. After that, I will begin writing Black James. That will be an epic character novel that will span generations, starting in Africa in the late 1700s. It features James, who is mentioned in my first 3 books, and makes a dramatic appearance in Mexico My Love. Once again, hyperlink to Mexico My Love that you can buy on Amazon. Let's see if that pops up for you if I pop on. No, it just stays on this page. Okay. Um, Here's some concept art of James. So there you go. There's James. Um, and then I hope you stick with me. I have a lot more planned. Much love, Cody, your friend. And then I'm not done yet, because check out my latest here. So all my blog posts have this, and this is why I share my blog posts for book reviews and not the Goodreads, because my blog post has a built-in preview of the book, so that you can look. You can buy my book without leaving the WordPress platforms. So here's the it goes quite a bit. I think it gets all the way into chapter 2. So you can read if you're like, I want to read Cody's Price and Prince, but I don't know, maybe it sucks. Well, you can find out for yourself. You can read. Okay, that's chapter 2. Yeah. Okay, so you can read pretty far into that, and I would say if you read that far and you're not feeling it, yeah, don't buy it. It'll save me a bad review. No, what I'm saying is, if you read that far um, and you're not into it, then yeah, absolutely. And that's what the previews are for, right? I mean, and the idea behind that is so that you uh, because we're replacing the experience of going to the bookstore, right? So uh, so when you go to the bookstore, you can physically pick the book up and you can look inside and you can read a little bit of it and decide if you want to take it home with you. Well, you can't do that online. So what they do is they give you a preview so that you can read a fair amount of it. Uh, so um, so yeah. So the only reason I brought this up here is I wanted to show you that, because it doesn't, if you click on something and you're screen sharing, it doesn't follow the link. It stays where you click from. So this is what happened when you click on it. It'll take you to the sales page, and this is the sales page for Mexico, my love. So so that's basically it. That's what I wanted to do with this with this with this stream here is this all part of the whole thing. Now, the before, during, and after of what I do with an event. Do you need to do all those steps? No. Uh, will I always do all these steps? I hope so, but sometimes it's a lot of work. I happen to have a lot of free time today that I could spend on kind of the after effects of doing that event. But the idea is that when you have an event, tell them about it, then do the event and be present and make new friends and new connections, and then report on the event, um, and let everybody know how it went and show them pictures, and then move on to the next thing. So that's it for that. I basically told you what's coming up with both events and the writing. I've written the first 4 parts of the French Fiasco. I have one more part 4, part 5. I'm going to be beginning, but what I'm doing now is I had a lot of ideas. Some of the ideas I decided to wait to see if I was really going to do it or not. So I've written like 25 chapters. I had to go back and insert a chapter. So chapter 14 is an insert, because I'm building. It's something I wanted to do anyway, but I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on it until I decided I truly wanted to do it. I'm kind of they talk about plotters and pantsers. Plotters are people that outline their entire novel and then they just flush it out in the writing. Pantsers come up with an idea and just start writing and see where the story takes them. I'm somewhere in between, probably closer to plotter. I'm closer to plotter than pantser, but I still do a lot of pantsing and allow myself to be surprised and and to dare myself to do things. As when I start a novel, I have a general idea. I usually know how it's going to end. I usually have a good idea how it's going to end. how it begins, and the things I want to have happen in the middle. But a lot of things develop as I write, and sometimes it takes me several days to write just one scene. And but in the course of writing it and coming back to it and looking at it, new ideas come to me, or things I wasn't thinking or seeing the day before become crystal clear to me the next day. I'm also one of those guys that there are some people. Just remember this about advice, okay, including my own. Um, Take all advice with a grain of salt, even from the masters. I was listening to Carl Duncan, who you should follow on YouTube. He's an excellent writing coach. He's got great videos, and he even says this, like, not all author advice is good, and a lot of times, like the best authors, like Stephen King, for example, and he used the same example. They're so good that sometimes they don't even know why they're good, and so they give out advice of things that they do, but that may not be the reason why they're so good. See what I'm saying? So just doing everything that Stephen King tells you to do doesn't guarantee that you're going to have Stephen King. Um, doesn't mean that other ways of doing it are not legit, or there are not successful authors that do that. So you have to listen. You have to know yourself first, and the only way to know yourself is to start writing and to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, right? And so I would say that there's no bad advice, but there's no like silver bullet advice either. Stephen King is a pantser, um, a self-identified pantser. He's also a self-identified I don't know a name for this, but Stephen will tell you, as well as some other people, that you should do no editing. In fact, I think he tells you to write your entire first draft without looking back, put it away for 6 months, and then come back to it and start your editing. I think that's terrible advice. I think that's a nightmare advice. I'm very different. I do a lot of editing all along because I don't want to do all that work afterwards. And I don't want to have to do major surgery on my narrative afterwards. So basically, how I write is I try to write when I'm in a writing cycle. I try to write every day. I try to write at least 500 words a day, which is not a lot, but 500 words is doable. And sometimes I write 2,000 words, but I can always force 500 words out of myself, right? The next writing session, I sit down and I read what I wrote. And even then, I'm making changes. I'm polishing it. I'm taking out adverbs. I'm cleaning up clunky sentences, adding things to it that I was omitting, or to make it better, polish it. And then once I do that, and now it's in my mind, then I write on until I get to the end of that session. And I do that every session. So that right there, that's revision number one. Then when I get done with a chapter, and what I do is I have a master document that I'm building as I go, that has all of the book that's assembled so far, but I write the chapters as separate documents because it's easier to work on them that way. And then once I'm finished with them, I copy and paste them into the master document, right? So when I get done with a chapter, and I consider a chapter like a short story, right? Even though all of them work together as a continuous narrative, each chapter is like an episode of Netflix to me. It's a short story. In fact, I title every one of my chapters. Now, that's how I do it. Not everybody does it that way, and it's okay if you don't. But so when I get done with a chapter, I've already, we've done revision one, where I reread every last session I've done before I start the next one and make changes. I get done with a chapter. First thing I do is I run it through spell check. That's another revision, right? Then I read it to myself, okay, and I make revisions. Then I have Siri say it out loud to me, because if I read it out loud, I'll make corrections subconsciously. But hearing someone else read it, I catch things more. Then I copy and paste it into Grammarly, and I make all the corrections that I want to make. Sometimes I don't make I don't agree with Grammarly. That's 5 times now that I've made revisions on it. But once it's gone through that, I copy and paste a version of it, and I email it to Laura, so that if I lose my hard drive because I did lose a good part of a novel in the 90s because I had a hard drive that crashed and lost everything I'd done. So that's kind of like insurance that if I lose everything, Laura's got a copy of it somewhere. And then I add it to the main document, right? Once I get done with the first draft and I've assembled the entire document, it's a rough draft that I could, and actually I do, I upload to the book that I'm building on Amazon KDP, so that I know how many pages it's going to be, and now I can understand where I can price it because it depends on how long the book is, what the price is, because the digital doesn't matter, but the print books, the more pages, the more expensive it is. So once I know that, once I've got to that point, it's already been through 5 revisions. Each part of it has, but not as a whole. Then I'll start running the pre-orders. My goal this time is to 2 months worth of pre-orders, and then the editing starts. And so, like I did chapter by chapter, now I do it for the whole book. Run the whole book through spell check. Then I read through the whole book, making corrections as I go. Then I have Siri read it, the whole book, making corrections as I go. Then I run it through Grammarly. Usually I have to do it like in 3 chapter chunks because it's too big for Grammarly, or even one sitting. Then once I run it through Grammarly, it's pretty much good to go. So I package it up and as a PDF, and I send it to Laura. Laura got a master's degree in science. She has authored many scientific papers. She is a eye for detail person. She's not a creative, she's a scientist. Laura will go through it with a red pen and find all my mistakes. Or even say, hey, you called this person this here, but you call them this somewhere else. She's awesome at that. And no, she's not for hire. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from her. She does it for me because, we're a couple. Once she gets all that done, she hands me back her manuscript with all the markings in it. Some of it is, hey, check this, make sure, if it's anything questionable, and I want her to be very liberal with that red pen. Anything that she even, sometimes I'll go, no, that's fine. Oh, that's a mistake. I'll go through all that. I'll make all her corrections. Then I fix that. So now that's 11. That's 11 times that it's been through. Send it to my mother. My mother is a creative writer. My mother ran an ad agency most of my life. She now is a political operative. She does political campaigning up in Michigan for Americans for Prosperity or something like that. She goes through it. Now, by the time she gets it, it should be just maybe it's things that Laura caught, but I made a mistake and didn't fix it or whatever. She goes through it. Once she goes, so that's 12 times it's been through. Then I get it back. If I have time, I'll read through it one more time, and then and then it's pretty clean. Basically, by the time I finish with the first draft, there shouldn't be any developmental editing because I've been doing that along the way. Now, not like I said, that's how I do it. That's what works for me. I don't want to keep writing if I'm not sure if what I'm writing is what I'm going to do. And that's why I kind of tapped the brakes when I got down with part 4, because I'm like, I got to really think about what I'm going to do for part 5 before I go any further. And so I sat down, I plotted it out, or outlined it, and said, okay, if this is what I'm going to do, then this is what I need to add to the story beforehand to make this work. And I already know where the things go, because when I was writing earlier, I was thinking about this, but left it out because I wasn't sure yet. See what I mean? So by the time it comes out, yeah, it's been through the ringer at least 12 times. So where am I right now? I'm not giving myself any certain deadline as long as I'm moving forward. I'm wrapping up with that whole like adding and fixing things, and then I should be starting in earnest finishing part 5. I'd like to bring in part 5 in under 20,000 words. It could be more. It could be a novella into itself. But once I do, then I'll start the pre-order and I'll start, all the things I'm going to do organically. I might buy some ads. I'll put it out to my email list. And during that time, those 2 months, hopefully I'll be getting a lot of pre-orders, and while we're working on it, we'll put it out. I usually give myself a month after I put out a book to just kind of do marketing and take a breather and to plot. And then after that, I'll start writing the Underground Railroad Ball. That book, that is going to be a novella. And I'm really interested. I've been paying attention to this about what's the difference between flash fiction, a short story, a novelette, a novella, and a novel. And I would also add a series and then a universe. Those are all to me, the units. And I would say that if you're writing series, you're writing all those things, right? It's just that instead of flash fiction, I'm writing scenes. And instead of short stories, I'm writing chapters. And instead of novelettes, I'm writing like a 3-chapter arc, usually like a battle scene, right? Novella. Novellas usually are more of a singular story, but long format. And Carl Duncan said that the short story is probably the shortest unit that people typically read in one sitting. Novelettes and novellas are usually over multiple sittings, as are novels. Now, there are maniacs that can read a novel in a day. I'm not one of them. It's bigger than word count. Word count is kind of a rule of thumb, but it's really content. So a flash fiction can be a couple sentences up to 7,500 words, but basically it's a single. It's a scene. A short story from 7,500 words up to 5,000 or to 7,500. I would say, like a chapter. My chapter is about 3,000 words, but probably about a chapter is, I would say, roughly, 1,000 words to 5,000 words is the wheelhouse where I am. And then a novelette, I would say, is like 3 or 4 chapters. And it's a very tight little story. A novella is a little bit more. It's like a short novel. Novels have like multiple characters and storylines intertwining. A lot of times, novelettes or novellas. Novellas are kind of single focus. I've heard Matthew Harvey and Stephen A. McKay talk about. They write novelettes as well as novels, and they usually write like a novelette and they'll sell it for $2. And they say they like it because it's just very focused, and it's, anywhere between, I would say, a novella. I'm sorry, I meant novella. A novella is anywhere between like 20 to 50,000 words, and then a novel, and these are arbitrary word count numbers, but a novel then would be like 50,000 words up. I think once you get past 150,000 words, are you writing a novel, or are those really 2 books? And I went through that with The Prussian Prince, because The Prussian Prince was originally supposed to be a Franco-Prussian War novel. And then once I got into it, and when I dreamt of it back when I was writing Rampage on the River, when I got into it, I realized all the material and the time span I had, that I really had enough for 2 novels. So I broke it in 2. So what was The Prussian Prince is now The Prussian Prince and the French Fiasco, all of which are part of my series. And the series is called The Long Century now. And it's going to go all the way up into either the doorstep or into World War I. And it's called The Long Century because the long 19th century is basically a French Revolution to World War I. But it'll also be, most of the characters will be dead by then. And then I have a universe in which all of this exists, that when I write, I'm thinking about writing further. I have a kind of a World War II or pre-World War II book that I want to write, and it will be same universe, but I won't. I don't think that will be part of the series. I think it'll be its own thing. Um, I'm wondering though, in these lines of delineation between units, it, if there's something in between the novel and the series, and I'll give you an example. So I have my series has 5 books in it. The first 3 are a Civil War trilogy, and then there's a prequel. That's number 4, and then there's a sort of a Prussian 2-book Prussian saga. And then there's going to be kind of a sidecar, and I don't know if I'm going to make Black James book 7 or if I'm just going to have it related to the series, but it's on standalone, because it's going to run kind of concurrent. It's going to go all the way back to the 1700s, and it's going to go up to at least 1846, 1948, somewhere around there. It's going to go at least up to where we meet him in Mexico, My Love. And then after that, there'll be 4 sequential novels that will pick up the main story of the series. So can a series be broken up into smaller parts that are larger than a single novel, but not a whole series? I know, that's a good question. But anyway, let's see. I've been going an hour and a half. Thank you for hanging in there as long as you have. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel. That's all free. Leave a comment if you like below, especially if you're watching this in replay. And I don't get a whole lot of comments on my video, so I'll be happy to reply to anything you got to say. And I will be back. And I should have said this in the beginning. I want to apologize for Thursday. I wanted to do a preview. That was part of, I say, do stuff before, during, and after. But my camera wasn't working. Well, what happened was that every time there's a new, I wonder if they do this on purpose. Every time there's a new update, things stop working until you do the update. So I had to do an update, but I had to do it overnight, and so I couldn't fix it on the fly. So that's why my live stream went down in flames on Thursday. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon, probably a week from now or some. I mean, I try to do this once a week. There's an author out there you like, make sure you give them stars. Rate their books, give them 5 stars if you're willing. You can manage to write a few sentences like, hey, it was great, couldn't put it down. We could really use those reviews on Amazon and on Goodreads and wherever else you can leave reviews for books. Keep writing, keep reading. I love you, and we'll talk soon.